Custom car star Danny Koker, who always wore a scarf, seemed to have it all. A popular TV show, a thriving business, and a name as an expert in customizing cars. A lot of people don't know I play music. And it's interesting that there were three things that were very important to me as a child. Then there was music, bikes, and cars. His custom engines roar, but there is a story behind the bright lights of Las Vegas. It is a story of tragedy, legal fights, and a sad personal journey. Why is the death of Danny Koker such a sad story? How the Count became famous. The story of how Danny Koker became famous is one of love, hard work, and a strong bond with the cars he cherished. Danny Nicholas Koker I was born on January 5, 1964 in Cleveland, Ohio. He grew up in a family and community that had a big impact on his life. The man who raised him, Daniel Koker Sr., worked for Ford Motor Company and was also a great singer. Daniel's life was built on this unique mix of mechanical knowledge and artistic imagination. Danny was bound to follow in his father's footsteps from a young age. He would not only carry on his father's name, but also share his passion and skills. Danny has always been interested in cars. He was fascinated by the old cars his dad worked on, and would often watch him fix and change engines for hours on end. I was taking apart cars while other kids played with their toys. This is what Danny said in an interview. When he was a child, his father encouraged this interest by giving him a boat. That bike was the start of a lifelong love affair with making cars look different. Danny learned a lot from watching his dad for long periods of time. His more hands-on attitude later on made those skills stronger and set him up for the future. When Danny was a youngster, he was already learning how to fix up old cars. He took shop and car classes at Las Vegas's Valley High School, but he often said that the hours he spent in garages, getting his hands dirty and figuring out how things worked were what really taught him. This hands-on, in-depth method gave him an edge over others because he knew more about a car's soul than just how it worked. Even though Danny had lessons and classes, he learned on the go and was getting ahead of his friends. Danny's story isn't just about cars though. Music was also a very important part of his rise. Danny grew up in a talented family. He played with the Koker family singers, his family band, and even played at Carnegie Hall when he was only 11. Danny will always remember his father as a singer who played with greats like Mahalia Jackson and the Oak Ridge Boys. With the roar of engines and the beat of rock and roll music running through his blood, he was who he was. Danny didn't just open a business when he finally opened Count's Customs in Las Vegas. For decades, people had worked hard and been passionate about it. Soon the shop became famous for turning rusty wrecks into works of art, which brought in car fans from all over the world. This success set the stage for Counting Cars, the History Channel show that made Danny famous all over the country. Danny's rise to fame wasn't easy, but it was driven by his deep love of cars and music, which people all over the world could relate to. These two things were what made his business work. In spite of this, disaster can shake even the strongest foundations, and Danny's story is full of sadness. The dark secrets of success are hidden under the mask. Danny Koker, also known as the Count, was a dream come true for people who liked counting cars. A man who made his own rules for living his life and turned his creativity, hard work, and love of cars into a job that most people could only dream of. But behind the famous bandana and laid-back attitude was a much more complicated life full of problems and scandals that would eventually damage his otherwise perfect image. Danny had to give up a lot to become famous. As Counting Cars became more famous, it got harder and harder to keep up with the Count's traditions, while also keeping up a public image. Danny was used to picking up things as he went along, and not really having to answer to anyone but himself. He was now in charge of a group of skilled workers, complicated restoration projects, and shooting a reality TV show. There was a lot of stress and pressure because of the big change in my life. Behind the scenes, Danny was said to be working very hard, even though he seemed cool and collected on screen. Employees at Count's Customs are said to have said that the workplace was like a pressure cooker, with tight deadlines and important projects causing a constant state of tension. When it came to money, Counting Cars was a hit, which brought both income and attention. People on the show seemed to be happy with their cars, but in real life things were not quite so smooth. On the other hand, Count's Customs did get some bad reports. It's not clear if these reviews were real or just meant to hurt the business, but they do show how hard it is to run a business that gets a lot of attention. In 2017, a bigger incident broke out when Danny was connected to a court case. Someone who used to work for the company was sued for stealing money and using it for their own gain. Not long after the story came out, whispers began to spread that the case might not have been real or might have involved illegal drugs. Counts Customs was said to have paid a former worker in return for illegal drugs, according to some reports. This made people wonder about Danny's background and whether he had ever struggled with drug abuse. This shocked fans, but it was never proven. Danny, who was known for being cool and charming, found himself in the middle of a storm that put his personal and professional life at risk. Fans saw a different side of Danny Koker during this time. They saw a man who was just like everyone else, underneath the mask and tattoos. His story showed that there are often secret costs to being successful. During this time, Danny went through some terrible things that gave his story more meaning and showed that even a famous person like the Count could give up because of the stress of being famous. At this point, Danny was seen to be tired and have dark bags under his eyes. It's clear that the drama was wearing them down, whether it was real or not. This is where counting cars went wrong. The end of keeping track of cars. For almost a decade, Counting Cars was one of the most popular shows on the History Channel. It showed how good Danny Koker is at restoring and customizing cars. From its first season in 2012 to its last in 2021, the show had millions of watchers who were captivated by Danny's charm and the amazing changes that were made to rusty wrecks into works of art. Fans were stunned by the ending of Counting Cars, though, causing people to talk about what really happened behind the scenes and why such a popular show would end so quickly. The official reason for cancelling the show has never been made public, but there were rumors of trouble during its last few years. Some people who work in the industry thought that the stress of fame, which includes bad reviews, lawsuits, and a strict schedule, might have played a role in the decision to stop the series. Others said that the rising costs of making the show and the falling numbers might have had something to do with it. The structure of the show, which was new and interesting at first, was beginning to feel old. Some fans said that after 10 seasons, shows had become boring because the stories were always about dramatic deadlines and over-the-top builds. Some people started to wonder if what they were seeing was real or just drama that was written to keep people watching. Because of this and the fact that it's hard to keep a reality TV show real, the makers may have decided that Counting Cars had reached its end. Adding to the mystery were reports that there was trouble in the crew. Danny Koker was the star of the show, but Counting Cars was really the work of a group of skilled workers, each with their own personality. There were rumors of fights and disagreements among staff members, which showed how hard it must be to balance original ideas with the demands of making reality TV. Having these kinds of internal disputes made it harder to keep the show going. Danny was feeling stressed out and upset from all the fights and drama going on around him. The old love of cars he used to have was becoming a show. Every move he made was watched closely, and even small mistakes were made to look worse. Things that had been going well were quickly becoming bad, which was a sad time in Danny Koker's career. Fan, on the other hand, wasn't ready to let go. After the show finished, many people took to social media to ask for it to come back. One fan asked, why would they cancel such a great show? This showed how confused the fans were, who had grown attached to both the cars and the characters. Danny always thought about his fans when he talked about the end of the show in interviews. He said he was thankful for how long it ran and hinted at how hard it must be to keep up such a popular project. As Counting Cars went out of business, Danny made sure that the show's spirit lived on. The public can still visit Counts Customs, giving tours and a museum of the most famous builds in the series. Fans can still connect with the magic of Counting Cars through this heritage, even though the show has ended. When the show ended, it was the end of a part of Danny Koker's life. But it also made people think about what it means to be famous and successful. Was it going to be the end of Counting Cars? Or did it happen because of secret tragedies that broke even its biggest star? Fans are still interested in the question of why it was cancelled, and they find it hard to believe that it could have led to Danny's death. Personal challenges and getting better. There's a story behind Danny Koker's bandana and cool rock and roll image. It is full of personal battles and quiet strength. Danny has had a lot of success in the film and car industries, but his personal life has been hard, which makes his story even sadder. Many people have thought that the Count's fame and wealth may have hurt him because of these problems. Danny's fight with addiction was one of the things that people talked about the most. Reports say that Danny turned to drugs to deal with the stress of handling Count's traditions, being in counting cars, and keeping up his public image. However, details are still hard to come by and often contradict each other. Many people saw it as the lowest point in his otherwise great career, which may have caused fewer people to watch. The gossip mill also spread stories about how he spent his darkest times alone. Some sources said Danny pulled away from his best friends and co-workers, which was a sign of the problems he was having inside. The high risks of his job and the constant attention that came with being famous on reality TV made these problems even worse. As we all know, living in the public eye can make personal problems seem worse and leave little room for privacy or healing. Even so, Danny's story is also one of healing. From what everyone says, he has come out of his personal problems with a new sense of purpose. People who know Danny think that he used the same skills that helped him be successful to get better. He has grit, drive, and a strong love for what he does. Fans love how honest he is about facing problems and never fully addressing specific accusations. They admire his strength. The songs that Danny makes has helped him heal a lot. Danny found a way to express himself and get in touch with his roots through his band, Count 77. He felt like he was part of a community and had a purpose when the band played live and became more famous, helping him use his energy to make things instead of hurting himself. Danny Koker doesn't talk about these problems very often, but his story continues to inspire people. He hears rumors of disaster all around him, which reminds us that even the most successful lives can be hard. Fans think that Danny's ability to deal with problems and find forgiveness says a lot about him as a person and gives his larger-than-life personality a bittersweet edge. People can relate to his story because it goes from personal trouble to victory. It's also very sad, which makes many people wonder what fights the mechanic still has to face. People talk about love and loss. Danny Koker's strong partner is his wife Koker. Fans have been fascinated by the couple's long-term relationship, seeing it as one of the few things that stays the same in the uncertain world of fame. But living in the public eye isn't always easy, and the tales and guesses about Danny and Corey's relationship have made their story more mysterious and sad. Corey has been very important in Danny's life and work. She is a great businesswoman and musician in her own right. She is one of Danny's co-managers of Vamped, the rock and roll bar that has become an important part of his Las Vegas business and a musical escape for him. Together, they've built a successful business that combines their loves of cars and music, but the stresses of fame and money haven't always been easy on their relationship. Danny's busy routine must have made his personal life hard. Counting Cars had been in production for almost a decade, and he had many other businesses that needed his full attention all the time. It was hard to balance work and family life. It was clear that the long hours, attention from the public, and regular travel hurt their relationship. Danny needed someone by his side because fame was making him feel stressed. Sad to say, though it's not always easy to be someone else's support system either. Reports about Corey's health that came out when Counting Cars was at the height of its success made things even more mysterious. A lot of people said she had a major health crisis, and some even said she had been in a car accident. Even though Corey didn't immediately deny these claims, the situation showed how close Corey and Danny are to each other and how important they are to fans in Las Vegas and beyond. The rumors made people even more interested in their personal lives, showing how closely people watched and respected the couple. Corey's short departure from Count's Vamped during this time only added to the rumors. There were rumors about her health for weeks, and fans flooded social media with support and well wishes. When she finally came back to public attention, her strength and determination were clear, putting an end to many of the rumors and proving how important she was to the Koker empire. Danny and Corey have decided to keep their private lives mostly out of the public eye, even though it has its challenges. They are even more mysterious because they haven't responded directly to the reports. Danny has said in the past that some things are meant to stay between us. That's what keeps us steady. Given the tragedy he has already been through, this may be the right thing to do.